Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is our take. We are your hosts on Motion.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Connor.
Thanks for joining us on this one, Connor. We are going to talk to you guys about Paramount Pictures' newest released movie, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. This movie stars
Sophia Lillis, which is the plays character of Doric. We also have the Chris Pine, who plays Edgin Darvis. Michelle Rodriguez, who plays Holga Kilgore. Sorry if I messed up your name. Regé Jean Page, who plays Zank Yendar.
Is that all the major ones?
I think those are the main roles.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Last one. Other main character. Justice Smith, who plays Simon Almar.
Oh, right.
He was the last one, yeah.
Okay, so this is a movie that we did a trailer reaction on a couple months ago. We were pretty excited about it. I've played the game with you a couple times, and I know that you guys are pretty versed on D&D, and so I'm excited about talking to you guys about this because I have some. I think you guys will find pretty interesting thoughts on it, and I think it's also important for those of you guys, the viewers that went and watched this movie, to kind of hear a breakdown of this movie, because it's not like this movie has like canonical events to follow and stuff. Like, we're not, I'll kind of explain a little bit more later, but yeah, we're gonna talk to you guys about Dungeons and Dragons. So we'll do this in traditional fashion, spoiler free content first, and then throw out some spoilers. Okay. As far as spoiler free content goes, I really enjoyed this movie. There's always going to be little things here and there that kind of irked me, and there's certain things that I'm partial to when it comes to fantasy world type stuff that I look for or I don't want to be there, and there were some things here and there, but I enjoyed the movie. It was a fun ride, and I really tried to just enjoy it for what it was, and what I mean by like it doesn't have a story to follow is that, to my understanding, like Dungeons and Dragons is supposed to be like, it's up to the game master for what the story is, right? Obviously there's preset ones, like some of the stuff that we've done, but a lot of people out there, they make up their own stories, right? They make up their own quests and whatnot, right? And so it's not, maybe this particular movie does follow a preset storyline that there is out there, but like a big part of what makes Dungeons and Dragons what it is in real life is that it gives people the ability to create whatever they want.
It's a choose your own adventure kind of game.
And so I think that really, like, for me, that really came through when I watched the movie. Like, I really felt like I was watching a story be created as I went throughout the movie. And I really enjoyed that. So there's a few things that I'll talk about that kind of irked me, but outside of that, I really enjoyed the movie. I don't know. How did you feel, Taylor?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching this movie. One thing I like that you said for me was quite literal, was this movie is a very fun ride. I watched this movie in 40x.
Oh, did you? You went to?
And man, this movie's crazy.
In 40x?
Yeah.
Really? See, that it's interesting because every time we talk about a movie that you see in 40x, it always seems to like surprise you.
I don't know. I thought the movie looked good, right? When we did our impression. And because of the genre it is, I figured, well, in 40x, this must be really interesting in 40x. Yeah. And it was. It was crazy. It was honestly way more than I thought it was going to be. This was the most like action filled, like literally feel movie that I have watched, even more than Top Gun.
Wow.
And there were some very cool things that I like that they integrated in this movie in 40X. I know that's kind of like its own side thing, but it just kind of meshed with the movie together very well for me in my experience. When I watched the movie, there was a bunch of D&D players. The reason why I could tell that is not only from their excitement and they had all their costumes and
Okay.
props and stuff, and they had like their memorabilia from like D&D stuff in
Yeah.
general. Some of them did get the playmat that you received as well, Connor.
Yeah.
I have it as well, but I have it from something different. But it was just really fun. I didn't really have too many big issues, mostly because I know that the world of D&D is so vast,
Right.
and like I know it's fantasy, but it's a very particular fantasy, which is like if you tried to relate this to something like Lord of the Rings, it
Sure.
would definitely rub you the wrong way a little bit at times, but that's just because they're just different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be comparing it to Lord of the Rings. Like,
No, this is
yeah,
definitely
I
its
mean,
own.
I'm just saying, like,
it's a very yeah.
as a viewer, you're
Right.
inclined to do that because they're fantasy,
Right.
but they're very like fantasy is such a broad spectrum, and I just wanted to say
Yeah.
like they are very different, but I could definitely see the case of like some things being like a
Yeah.
little gimmicky or like, well, that's
Yeah.
convenient, or like some kind of like MacGuffin or something,
Right.
which is true. But it's kind of just part of D&D. So
Yeah.
I tried to like not have as much expectations for this movie, and because of that, I just had a good time with it.
Yeah, I did too. What about you, Connor?
Yeah, I thought this movie was really fun. I honestly didn't really have anything negative to say about this movie because, to me, like you said, D&D is a very moldable world. It's a very sculptable world. You can
Yep.
do whatever you
Yeah.
want, and that lends itself well to a movie because you can really make it whatever you want to make it, you know. And
Yeah.
it's gonna make sense in the world because that's just how D&D is.
Right.
And it did feel like a homebrew D&D session where you're just
Right. Like
watching
this
a really
movie
fun story.
could have been a
Mhm.
game. Like somebody, people
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
playing this.
Yeah.
It's just you're seeing it portrayed on screen.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing I would say if I was to pick any sort of negative, I don't even think it's a negative, but the movie's pretty predictable, but it's like
Sure.
I didn't really find that that's a problem, Like I was
Yeah.
expecting some things and they happened and I was like, "Okay, cool." Like it wasn't like,
Right.
Yeah.
it wasn't
I felt the same too.
yeah.
Well,
It wasn't
something
a
that
negative.
you had told me on one of our more recent episodes is that, or you had pointed out that I seem to be partial to originality and stuff like that, and I've tried to not like shake that because I think that's part of just what I like about movies.
Yeah,
But
which is fine.
but I've tried to like open my eyes to like, okay, can I appreciate things for not being original but being executed well? And I
Yeah.
think that this movie is one of those movies that
Right.
helped me kind of, or showed me that I can accept some things that aren't original, because a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie is not necessarily original, but a lot of it is executed so well that didn't really bother me.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Which is good. That's cool.
I enjoyed it. So let's get into some scores so that way we can get into spoilers. As far as the score goes for me, I'm sitting at a 9. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. The issues that I have with it are minor and don't really affect like the overall story or anything. And I think that some people, I can see though that some people might go and watch this movie, and if they're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons or familiar with like just how the world works and stuff, then I could see how some people might not necessarily like it very much.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's why I said what I said earlier in the episode, where I think it's important for the viewers to listen to a breakdown of this movie by people like you guys that are pretty well versed in Dungeons and Dragons, so that you can kind of get a better appreciation for how that movie went. So I'm sitting at a 9. What about you, Connor? What is your score for Dungeons and Dragons?
I'm also gonna give it a 9. I had a lot of fun, laughed a lot. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, now what I look for in movies as I've grown older. Is just to have fun. I really enjoy when I can sit down and just have a good time and not really have to where you get kind of sucked into a different world, and it's just fun to be there, you know?
Yeah, I totally understand. Taylor?
Originally, I was gonna give this an 8, but I think I'm gonna give it a 9. Especially thinking back on it, the performances that were in this movie were honestly surprisingly really good.
Yeah,
especially by supporting characters.
Mm-hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised how well they pulled off some of these roles, because from the trailer, I know it's kind of a stretch to try to like imagine what the movie they're going to be like in the movie. But I was expecting to not like a lot of characters in this, but I actually like everybody in this movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's only maybe one person that I indifferent about, but everybody else I enjoyed. I did get attached to some people, and the emotion that they tried to invoke at the end, I felt it.
It was, I did too. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't looking forward to that.
Right.
But they pulled it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some spoilers, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys have not seen this movie yet, I do highly recommend going and watching it in a theater first. The theater experience is always the best way to see movies like this. To get that experience first, and then once you guys are done and you guys are trying to process everything that you just saw on that screen, just flip on this video on your way home, and we'll kind of guide you through what happened in this movie. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to serve as your official
spoiler alert.
All right, so let's start with performances, because I do think that there are a few people that are deserving of a shout out. I think Chris Pine did well. He served his role. He did fine. I don't have any issues with him, but I don't think he was like outstanding, like stood out of the box. But for me, somebody that actually really impressed me with her role was Michelle Rodriguez. I was expecting to get Letty from Fast and the Furious. That's what I was expecting to get.
Is that what you mostly have seen her in?
No, I've seen her in a lot of other stuff. I'm familiar with her.
I do not ever consider her from Fast and the Furious.
I'm familiar with her from a lot of other stuff, but I was expecting to get, because from the trailer, she's supposed to be this tough woman, blah blah, but she took it like they took it even a farther step. Like she a tough woman, but she was like she beat your ass if you look at her wrong. Kind of
she's
thing.
Like a barbarian.
And it was great. I loved it. And
she played the barbarian part really well.
Yeah.
I was really happy to be able to look at somebody that I was expecting to get a different performance from, and then they just completely shocked me with the performance that they gave. Right. I mean, it's always a great like feeling to get, because the whole time I'm like, man, this is great. She's doing great.
Yeah, she is. I gotta say the scene with her and Bradley Cooper as a tiny little man was amazing. Was so good. Dude, it was so funny. I felt the emotion between them. Like they were like separated. And she's
I didn't even realize that was Bradley Cooper. I just want you to be happy.
No way.
Dude, as soon as he came out, like, there's no way Bradley Cooper's
because he was so tiny, and I was this is tiny man. And then when he sat down and started talking to her, I was like, oh my god, that's Bradley Cooper. It's like, what the fuck?
I recognized him immediately. Yeah. And I was dying laughing for a good minute. The entire theater was
like, wait, Rocket's in this too?
The entire theater was cracking up as soon as he came on screen.
It's funny because he plays a fucking gnome or something in this.
Yeah.
And he's like a 3-inch tall person.
Midget. Yeah.
Like the difference of him on screen with Michelle Rodriguez, because they make everything seem so much bigger. Yeah, it's just so funny, dude.
When they shake hands,
it's just the fucking her finger.
It's like they put a little baby hand in front. Like,
it's so funny. Like I love Bradley Cooper for that. I love him for being willing to play a funny role like that.
And then the fact that Holga falls in love with another small guy. I was like, I guess she has a thing for small guys.
Yeah.
The best part about it is when the new girl
walks in,
it's basically Olga, but just slightly different.
Yeah.
Oh,
He married another
man.
gigantic barbarian.
Yeah, it's so great, dude.
That's
There's
funny.
so many. This film does such a great job at poking fun, but also like giving respect to a lot of fantasy tropes and fantasy like stereotypes that it makes it so much fun throughout the
like it doesn't
the
take
film.
itself super serious.
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all.
Like
Yeah, I have to say, my favorite part of this entire movie was the fat dragon scene.
Dude,
I thought that
I
was
was
amazing.
not expecting that.
Yeah.
It was
cannot
so
tell you-
funny.
I cannot tell you
That
guys
plays
how
perfectly
fucking
into
hard
what you
I
just
laughed.
said. Yeah.
How hard I laughed at that.
Because
I
you expect this
couldn't-
dragon to be fucking scary
Yeah.
and like super huge,
And
but
his
he's
head
literally
is.
just a big, gigantic, fat. Like he's just fat.
You know what it
His
reminded
entire
me of?
body is fat.
So isn't there a movie? It might be a Disney movie where there's like a crocodile that gets blown up, and it's just like a ball, just like the
I know
dragon.
what
is
you're
Oh,
talking
in
about.
Shrek.
Shrek,
Talking about
Shrek,
Shrek,
yeah.
where he like
blows
blows
up
it
the
into a
crocodile.
balloon.
He's like trying to
Yeah.
like bite something.
It looks like that. Yeah,
like that.
it looks
It
like
was
that.
a dragon. It was so.
And it's
funny.
so hilarious because the dragon uses his fat to his advantage
Yeah.
and like
Right, he,
fucking
like,
starts
rolls.
rolling
The best
over
part
like
is
when he tries to fly, it's like really slow.
when he first comes out of the like cage or the cave
gets
and he
stuck.
like puts his head out and everybody's like, oh my god, it's a dragon, and then he tries to get out and he's stuck and everybody's just like
I guess they found a new cave.
oh my god. Oh man.
He's like, what did he do? Eat the last cave? And then like,
that part was so funny, man.
So good.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
that entire sequence was my favorite part of this entire movie. It was
yeah,
so good.
I would be hard pressed to think of a different or another scene that made me laugh even more.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
such a it's such a flip of like a fantasy trope on its head that it just worked so well. I was like, man, this because it's hilarious. Like
Yeah.
the dragon is not really intimidating at all because he's so fat that he's just like rolling around everywhere and just kind of like
But it's still,
sliding
like,
on the ground. But it's
still
but
an
it's
element of danger
Yeah,
that
right,
like, if
but
you
it's
just
like-
stand there and stare at him, yeah, he'll still
right.
eat you.
But it's like he's still eating people, like,
Yeah,
like
yeah, he's still
consistently
chomping
eating
on all
people.
the guys.
Yeah. And I thought it was just so funny that he
Oh,
couldn't even
man.
breathe fire because he's so fat. He's just gassy and he's just like, and like just kind of blows out gas. It's fucking hilarious.
So
dude.
funny.
Oh my god.
Even the what was the like super righteous dude's name? The
I was gonna say one of my favorite characters is Zank.
Zank,
Yeah,
He's like the
dude.
super handsome
He's
dude that
your-
always comes
yeah.
out at the end. and
He's like the
your
level
typical-
50 hero.
yeah.
He's your typical knight in shining armor, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
he's a
what he
he's a
is.
paladin.
He's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, he's your paladin, knight in shining armor, like just
Yeah,
Your
and like
saving
instantly
grace.
kicks everybody's
He's
ass.
always
Yeah.
saving
Yeah.
everybody, yeah.
always wins, but he's stupid. Like,
Yes.
he's like,
Yeah,
I
he's
don't deal
really
in
dumb.
colloquialisms. I was like, what?
Well, I won't say he's stupid. But he's
Okay,
like
yeah,
weird.
stupid is not.
He's
the
like
right word.
Drax.
He's
like Drax. He's very
literal. He's a very
Yeah.
literal is
Yeah.
the right word. Sorry, stupid is the wrong word. I apologize.
Yeah, 'cause
But it
he
was
actually
hilarious.
Probably the smartest person in this movie.
He was so funny.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
really funny.
And
Yeah, he was super cool too. I mean, he was
He
fucking
was
awesome.
I mean, I thought he was.
Yeah.
very
his sword
cool. He
was
looked-
dope as hell. I was
Dude,
like,
that's
this is
what I was
awesome.
gonna say.
Fight
This movie.
scene?
So I know we talked about it in the trailer, but the
Yeah.
CG in this movie is really good.
Yeah,
And
it
I
really is.
really love the costume design in this movie.
Mm.
Like all the armor and clothing and stuff looks super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, even the practical effects that they have are really good. Like I love the fucking like cat people and the fish thing. Like all of those
That
were
was pretty
practical
funny.
effects. That wasn't CGI, and I was like, holy shit! I was actually impressed because I expected it to
Dude,
be
that's-
CGI.
Wait, the cats were practical effects?
Those
the
are
cat-
practical
the
effects.
Yeah,
mom
a lot,
and
a
the
lot of
baby?
the creature.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh wow, I thought that was CG.
yeah. So it's super impressive that they did both of those really well, and I was like, wow.
The fucking
The fish definitely looked practical effect, but
Yeah.
the bird dude was so funny.
Oh,
'Cause everybody
yeah.
always picks on him. I forget his name. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that was a practical effect too. That was a practical
yeah,
costume.
it was.
I
All the
fucking loved
judges
it, dude.
or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah,
those were all
the-
practical.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's so
Yeah,
Obviously,
this
the
movie was great.
flying
This
and
movie was
everything
so
was
fun.
CG, but,
I really hope they make another one of these. Like, I hope
Yeah,
they
I
just
hope
keep
so, too.
going because, like,
What
I
I
would love
would
to see
like-
just like a franchise of these.
What I would like is a franchise of these movies, but everyone is just a completely different story.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
you
that's
want to
how
have like a
Dungeons and-
different
That's
team.
how
Like a
Dungeons
new
and
quest,
Dragons is,
new,
right? Like it's a
team.
new thing. Like it's just a new world.
Yeah.
Like
I think that would work so well with this.
I mean, that's,
you know, to
yeah.
the
have-
possibilities are
endless.
infinite.
Endless,
It's literally
yeah.
endless. Yeah.
they could get like so many amazing actors, and yeah, I'm really excited. I'm hoping that it does really well.
I think that it did well enough that there's definitely going to be desire to make more.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of direction they take with it, whether they continue this story or they create new ones or whatever. But I would really like to see like new, like just completely new stories.
Yeah, I would be kind of not disappointed, but yeah, I would rather them try to stay away from like keeping the same cast and stuff. I wouldn't mind returning characters, you know,
like some cameos here and there,
right? Because you can do that in D&D. Like you can transfer over to different games and stuff with your same character and stuff.
If they do it right, I could see this being just as popular and big of a franchise as like Fast and the Furious. You know what I mean?
But actually good.
But actually good. Yeah, but actually done well.
Yeah. I think it'd be really cool, and I think it's really cool for the Dungeons and Dragons community as a whole. Like all the people out there that play it. Like I don't consider myself part of that community because I've only played twice now.
I mean, I'm enthusiastic about it, but I'm not.
None of us are like
not in it like that as much as I would like to be.
Yeah, but I think it's really cool because it brings awareness. It it shows people like what Dungeons and Dragons can
and it is a really cool community. They're not like
it's super good. Like, it's really cool that it's been growing probably ever since like Stranger Things.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
I guarantee you the first season of Stranger Things was like the main catalyst.
Made their community just
for the community blowing up,
which is great. Like you want that for anything.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome, and I would like to play more. Like this movie made me. Reinvigorated my desire to play Dungeons & Dragons again, because like I finally, like when we first played it, there's the thing that I was struggling with the most with Dungeons and Dragons was the concept of being able to do whatever I wanted, right? Like
it is
in most games, in most board games,
you get like set choices,
right? You have a choice of like, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? But with Dungeons and Dragons, it's literally the players make the choice to do something, and then it's the game master's job to work that into the story, present them with with that consequences of their actions, right? And it's such a unique way of playing a game and telling a story that like it's super intriguing to me, and I would like I'm not ready to like take on game master myself.
Yeah, I gotta say like. As excited as I am about D&D, I of the little that we've played, I was the game master, and I feel like there's so much stress as a game master because there's so many things that you have to like take into consideration and understand and know, and like because we were all playing with new players, it wasn't like that big of a deal. But if I was definitely playing like at the convention I just went to, they had a ton of D&D stuff going on.
Yeah, see, that's something
I can imagine. Like, I would be so off put of like, I don't want to like,
you have to take out a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's just so much that's going on, but
because you don't want to make it a bad time for everyone else,
right?
Right. Problem,
which honestly is not really the attitude that you should go in with. It's just something that's common.
Yeah, it's daunting. It's daunting
for sure,
but it is a lot of fun though, and. Maybe you guys can stay tuned to the channel. We actually do have plans on maybe.
Yeah,
we are working on it. We're working on it.
That's something that I want to do. I want to put together like a Dungeons and Dragons thing within the channel. I want to play it, and I think there's more people within our friend group and stuff that would be willing to join because of this movie.
Right.
Like this movie,
that stuff could carry over to like conventions.
This movie is really fun, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you guys watch it. And go into it with the expectations of just having a fun time. Like don't go in there and
don't
try
expect
to be
anything
literal
crazy
with everything.
Yeah.
Well, there
is some crazy stuff.
Not necessarily.
Don't go in there expecting it to be like Lord of the Rings. Like you have to have an open mind and just go in there and not expect it to be like a high fantasy, like you're you know what I mean, where it's just like super serious and just take it as they're having fun with the movie. Like they don't take themselves super seriously the entire movie. You know what I mean? So it's like,
well, not everything has to have like an explanation and super fleshed out. Like a lot of fantasy is built on lore and canon, right? And And that's what makes a lot of things like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and, you know, comics and stuff. That's what makes it so amazing. But this particular type of fantasy, like Taylor was talking about how it's different, like this particular type, like I'm sure there is lore and there's kind of like set baselines.
Yeah, there certainly is.
But like, I don't know, to me, what
it's
makes D&D so cool.
Present. Yeah, because you're as a player, you don't really know.
Yeah. What makes it so cool is like you can do whatever you want. Like,
yeah.
Like
you'll notice it in this movie that you're talking about with some of the characters, especially Chris Pine. I don't remember them the names, sorry, off my head, but they're like he was a particular we'll say like clan. And then the Zank character was another one they have history of not working well together. That's like as deep as that lore gets in this movie. So it's there, but they don't like shove it down your throat because that's just not what this is about.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like Destiny where you have to go and read Grimoire cards to find out exactly.
Yeah. Why are
but that's what makes it nice.
In the fallen?
I think that's what makes it a fun time as well, though, because it's just like you kind of just like you don't really know, like you're not if you don't like read up or listen to like D&D lore or whatever on YouTube or read up on the books or whatever. Like you're not going to go into the movie and feel like, oh yeah, the Chris Pine's faction doesn't get along with this guy. It's just like, oh, they just don't really like each other, kind of.
Right. Yeah. Like it's just you know
and
you get the general idea.
Yeah, and it's
simple.
Funny
simple is better sometimes. Sometimes
I have to
simplicity
say,
is.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I meant is just simplicity. Sometimes simplicity is better.
Yeah. I just wanted to say I loved all the creature designs for this movie. I thought all of the creature designs were so well done.
Bear Owl.
Yeah,
Doric, dude, she looked okay. First of all, I haven't seen you since It Chapter 1, but it's really cool to see you in another role. The Owlbear was so cool.
Dude.
Yeah, Owlbear was awesome.
And this reminds me of another favorite scene right at the end.
Hulk where they pull an Avengers.
Yes. Oh God,
so good.
Yeah,
that was
I told Haley that I was like, "Oh my God, they took that straight out of Avengers."
Yep.
I was like,
that's
hilarious.
That's 100% stolen from Avengers. But like that's
but
one
it's
of those
fun.
things that I'm talking about.
That like
fun
you have.
It's not original, but it was done so well and it was placed so well within like the story and within what happened that it was just freaking hilarious.
And it was like a tad like just different enough, like the way that she picks him up and she like is shaking her and like
then she
shoving
threw her into the wall. And the wall collapsed down on her.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah. That kind of stuff was amazing in this movie, and I really loved like you said, the owlbear, the dragon was amazing. I love the fucking like brain.
Dude, those the panther things were
the panther things were
thing
awesome.
Was awesome.
And the mimic looked really good.
The self-projecting.
Yeah, dude, and the panther had like projected tentacles.
Tentacles.
I thought that show was awesome.
Yeah. Bro.
All the monsters were fucking great in this movie. They really nailed that aspect. I want to give them props for that.
Yeah.
I
actually I thought what's his name? Simon. His character actually surprised
me. The
me.
Wizard?
Yeah, he was like the team.
Magic is so cool in this movie. I have to say, Magic was fucking awesome in this movie. I loved how like whenever he spoke and shit, his voice was like, and it was like all fucking crazy, and I was like, that's fucking cool. And then he's like shooting shit out. Yeah, it was just
but
it's fucking awesome.
It looked really good.
Yeah,
but his arc, I was surprised how much
his arc
ended up
really
enjoying
cool
it because
yeah,
it's like you would say it's kind of it's not original, but it's like it was surprisingly like satisfying when he finally I was so excited for him.
Yeah.
When he finally beats himself,
because
he's trying to basically overcome his own fear,
right?
Or doubt, and they play it up for laughs the whole movie where he's like,
right,
they do a fucking loser,
deprecating.
The thing that I like about his arc is that it's super relatable. In its very basic sense is that a lot of times we get in our own way of success.
We are our own biggest enemy.
Right. And I really like that there was no crazy insane like thing that happened that turned him into a better person. You know, like a lot of times when you have these like redemption arcs or whatever, there's this like moment where they do this heroic thing that like fixes them and turns them better or whatever, but
super out of the norm.
Yeah, but in this one it was literally just he had to come to the realization that in his moments of weakness he somehow always finds a way out, and that in and of itself is a strength. And if you as a viewer or somebody that's watching can identify that, because like I feel like I can identify with that, like I think that's really a really powerful message to relay, and it doesn't teach people this idea that you have to go out and do all these crazy things to be able to become a better version of yourself. You know what I mean?
He didn't have
or
to do
just
like
the you that you've always been.
Exactly.
That you just couldn't see.
Right.
Like he literally had to just face himself literally and just be like,
like he thought it was
you know what I mean?
Like, great
grandpa or whatever.
Grandpa wizard. But it was just him, and it was just him messing with himself.
Yeah. I really liked that message of the story. I think it's a really good message to send, that you can self-reflect and figure out your issues without having to do all these crazy things that we see all these heroes do.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really liked a lot of like the smaller finer details that they like put into how the story played out and whatnot, with using like I don't know how to explain this, but just with like the the wizards and
the red wizards.
Yeah, the red wizards, like their whole like world domination thing, you know, typical. But then,
so to preface, the red wizards are the main.
Sure. Yeah, then
like,
the main villains. There's this group of people that were
They're like
wiped.
necromancers.
Yeah,
basically.
Or they're technically zombies, right? Like they died. Right? Like they died, right?
Well, so the red wizards are the necromancers. They turned everybody in their country into like mindless slaves, basically, after killing them. Yeah.
Right. And then now they're extensions of them. Which, by the way, what is the actress's name of the main red wizard? The female? Because I feel like I know her from something, but I don't remember where I've seen her before.
Daisy Head?
I don't remember where I've seen her from.
Also, I did forget one other member, Hugh Grant, who plays as Forge.
Oh, yeah.
He was also really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to, the whole movie,
he was
trying
a
to figure
dick,
out.
but he was really good.
Yeah, but he played his part.
Yeah, I mean, he played his role. He's meant to.
He was a good scumbag.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was a con man, and I loved the scene.
His nature.
I loved the scene where he was like, "Well, you shouldn't have trusted a con man," and it's true. Like con men are always going to be con men. You never
Can't
fully
blame
trust
him
them.
for.
Yeah. And I actually did really like. Usually the villains are kind of like in these movies, but I had a lot of fun with the villain in this movie. I thought the main red wizard lady was pretty like. It was very fun to see her as the villain because of how just fucking batshit crazy she was.
Yeah.
And like, the scene that sold it for me was when she was pretending to be the child and she was just like, and then like,
she was creepy, dude.
Yeah. I was like,
creepy.
What the fuck? And then she was just like, I got you.
With her was, she's like having her talk with her like master, shadow form master.
Oh, yeah.
And what's his, Forge walks in. She's like, oh, dressed up, and he's just like, "Oh,
you took your hood off.
You took your
margin. Yeah, you probably should put that back on. But don't let me tell you what to do.
Yeah, I'm far too it for myself to tell you what to do. Yeah, that was pretty great. I also like the scene where she's showing the vault, and she's like, is it Forge?
Yeah.
Forge.
Yeah, Forge.
The guy, Forge.
Forge.
She's like,
I'll let her tell you the full details of the vault. She's like, this is the curse that's on it. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. She's like, it's protected by.
Not all the details.
She's like, it's protected by the seal of Archon, and then they're like sitting there in silence, and they're like,
Is that it?
Okay.
Is there more to
and
that?
And she's like, silence.
There is a wild shape above.
Yeah, that shit was creepy too. She's like, there's a.
And then she like yells.
Oh yes,
her, like,
yeah. She does like the.
She starts.
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
screaming. It's like, dude, you're cheating for one. Fucking
aimbot,
dude.
Invasion.
Well, so
she did like a straight up Invasion of the Body Snatchers shit, where she's just like, oh
yeah, it was fucking.
There was something that I actually really liked about this villain was that her power level stayed consistent throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, she was just super powered.
She was just OP the whole time.
Yep.
And even at the end, the only reason why they were able to defeat her is because they had the magic dampening bracelets, which like that's one of my issues that I had with the movie. That it's just like, all right.
Yeah,
like,
but I don't know how else they would have been able to defeat her.
No. So
otherwise,
like I said, the issues that I have, they don't really affect it. It's just one of those things. Like, all right, like that's kind of cheap, but it was played.
I mean, it was a better way to defeat her. Yeah. Then like it was a better way to trick her into defeating herself than like I couldn't see any of them just flat out beating her. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So it would have made less sense within the time frame and the confines of the story that was given for any of the people within the main group to have elevated their powers or their abilities to a place where they could have beaten her in the time frame that we were given. So it makes sense to have those bracelets. It's just a little convenient for me, but it's fine. It's not, like I said, these issues that I have with this movie are super minimal, and they're not like
I kind of felt the same way too. It was like it's fine, and I still enjoyed it. But it's like just a little thing I just noticed, and it's like okay,
all right. I guess
the other thing I had was the it was like you were saying, Connor, it was predictable. Was the fact that in the end, Holga died or is about to die. And then I'm like, of course he's going to use the tablet of.
Yeah. So let's get into that actually. Let's dive into that a little bit because there's a movie that we reviewed pretty recently, which was, oh my God, Shazam 2, right? We reviewed Shazam 2 and I had shared my thoughts on the fact that Billy was brought back at the end when he sacrificed himself to defeat the place, right? So it's very similar in this movie. One of the main characters, Holga, who's played by Michelle Rodriguez, ends up getting stabbed by a red wizard blade, which within this world, the red wizard blade, if you get stabbed by it, there is no cure. There's nothing you can do. You're dead.
It like poisons you to death.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Morgul.
Right. Like it's just, Morgul blade, the Elvish healed them, but so if you get stabbed by it, you die. And she got stabbed by it in the final battle. They didn't realize until after they had defeated the Red Witch. And then there's this really heartfelt moment of Holga and Chris Pine's character and the daughter Kira, crying, very emotional that she's about to die because Holga essentially raised Kira as her own daughter, in conjunction with Chris Pine's character, which I can't seem to remember the character's name for some reason. But they, you felt that emotion. She dies. and then this tablet that was a main focal point of the story that Chris Pine, like the whole reason why this story started was because Chris Pine decided to try and go and rob this particular vault that had this tablet that would bring back one person from the dead, right?
Which was his dead wife.
He intended to use it on his dead wife so that he could reunite his family and live happily ever after. Blah blah blah. So the difference for me between Shazam's story and this story is that Chris Pine had to sacrifice something in order to bring back Holga. Right? Like it wasn't.
Yeah, it didn't feel like I got fucking like.
My emotions, I didn't feel like my emotions were cheated. I felt sad that Holga died, and I felt like, man, that really fucking sucks for them. And then when the possibility of bringing her back came into play, my thought went more towards, man, that's really shitty for Chris Pine's character because now he has no chance of being able to reunite with his wife. and the whole overarching goal of this entire storyline is now going to be impossible because he's choosing to give that up to give Holga back her life that she essentially sacrificed for them, right?
Right.
So I definitely I'm glad that you brought that up, because when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I could see how people would draw like similarities between that, but I felt completely different. I actually didn't mind it.
Yeah, it wasn't like just a like I kind of
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna happen. Like Taylor said, as soon as she
Right.
was stabbed and was gonna die, I was like, okay, they're gonna bring her back. But I wasn't like, this part fucking sucks or anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like you said, like my emotions weren't cheated or anything, and I was just kind of like, well, that makes sense because she was there for most of the kid's life,
right?
So she
was
kind of knows
essentially her mom,
right? And then it's like, do you? It is a really hard decision for Chris Pine's character, because it's like, do you sacrifice your own happiness for the happiness of your daughter? And you know what I mean? Because the daughter knows her as her mom, and she doesn't really have that same connection, right? So it's like, he does want his family back together, but it's also like, the daughter wants.
Well, I think he comes to the realization that Holga is family too.
Yeah,
exactly. And he kind of gets the message from beyond the grave when the dragonfly lands on his arm of the wife saying, like, it's okay.
That was like the first obvious sign to me. It happens like early on in the movie.
There's dragonflies periodically throughout the movie.
Yeah, pops up and like he stares at it and stuff. I'm like, okay, this must be some kind of like connection to his wife or whatever. Yeah. And then we finally get the
backstory,
like vision or flashback, whatever. And she's like, you just gotta let it go.
Yeah.
And then it like flies away.
I also thought it wasn't really that like a big of a deal that he would bring her back anyway, because in the regular D&D game, I mean, you can
bring people back all the time.
Yeah, you just die all the time and they could come back. So it's like,
no, I totally understand. But the difference. So to clarify a little bit more, right? Like the difference with Shazam is that there was Billy was brought back by some bullshit thing where like just happened. Wonder Woman just happened to still be there. And
it was just a circumstantial thing.
Yeah, it was dumb, and it ruins the emotions that you felt before.
And nobody had to sacrifice anything to get
for it to happen. Like there was no downside to him being brought back. This is an escalation of emotions to me. There's the emotions of her dying, sucks, feel bad for Kira and Chris Pine, and then there's the elevation of the emotions into, oh, okay, are we choosing Holga or are we choosing the mom? Right, and then all right, that sucks because now the mom is never coming back, and that sucks. So
I mean, I agree. I thought it was a lot better. I don't know, something about it still like bothered me, like the fact that they went through the whole movie and it's been fine, and then right at the end she just happens to get stabbed.
Yeah,
like
no, definitely
it didn't really sit like totally finally, but I mean, I still think it's better. But I just like, all right,
sure,
because you don't see it happen either.
Right, it's just like something off screen. You're like, oh, great, now she's dying, and now he has to use.
Even though they were all together, like Avengers style.
Avengers style,
pretty much.
Like they were all together, Avengers style, fighting her, and at the same time, and then after they're done fighting her, it turns out, oh, she got stabbed. But it was like, nobody saw that happen. It's like sticking out of her chest. Like,
seemed like a pretty serious.
Nah, man. It's just a flesh wound.
It's the flesh wound. Yeah. But
I get it.
Like it doesn't really. Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
I will segue this into the one person or character that I was indifferent about and that didn't really like but didn't really hate either, and that's Kira. I didn't really care. Like, I don't know. She just the daughter. She just,
I agree with that.
Yeah, she was just kind of like she didn't really need to be there or anything.
Like, honestly, it might have even been funnier and, like, played into the world more if we never actually got to see Kira. If Kira was just, like, this figment of, like, the quest, like, like, he's going
Especially
after his
like,
daughter.
Yeah, we just saw her. You
Yeah.
didn't see her? No, what?
Like that.
Yeah, he's just like a terrible father.
He's
Yeah.
always
just
never
like
there at the right time. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
like,
it could have been even funnier, but she was there, and a lot of her scenes, I didn't really believe her emotions and her
yeah, I
Nah,
agree
me
with
neither.
that.
her stuff. But it didn't like. Again, it's one of those
Yeah, it
things
doesn't
where
ruin it, but
Yeah.
it's I agree. She didn't really
she didn't really add anything.
do anything.
She
Yeah.
didn't take
Yeah.
away anything, but she didn't add anything either.
Yeah, which is why I thought that the fucking Red Wizard scene when she's pretending to be the daughter was so fucking good because
Yeah.
it was almost the exact amount of acting that like like it was the girl obviously acting, but it's like the witch is like pretending to be just as bad of an actor, like you know what I mean, to like be the child or whatever. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is funny, actually.
Yeah.
When you think about it like
This
that.
shit was hilarious
Yeah.
and creepy.
But,
Yeah, this
Yeah,
this movie was pretty good. It was pretty solid, ladies and gentlemen. I think you guys will enjoy it.
Yeah. All the D&D people that were watching with me, like they were so pumped, dude.
Oh yeah.
When they came out of the theater, they were like cheering and stuff. And I saw them all like holding up their like hammers and swords.
Oh,
and
that's
stuff.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
One
this
thing
movie's
I
a
did-
blast.
Cool.
One thing I did want to bring up, and maybe I just missed it, and I it's another thing I don't think really takes away from it, but I didn't see any dice at any point. You know, within the game of D&D, the dice are a big part of the game. I mean, that's
Obviously,
everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I
know.
don't remember there ever being like any reference or like call to the
Yeah,
dice or
like
anything. You know, like it was never really part of the movie.
I would have to rewatch to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
I'm trying to
confirm,
think of
but
it,
I don't remember.
but I can't remember anything either.
Yeah.
Which is, you know,
Is
they
the thing
were
that the
successful
wizard
without
holds,
it.
What's his name? The
Wizard?
really insecure guy. He's like holding the thing
Simon.
to like speak to the dead or whatever.
Oh, the
Nice.
little
Oh,
palace
dude, that scene
thing?
was so
Oh, that was
funny
hilarious.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this count as a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah,
saw
I
that
loved-
part in the trailer.
Yeah, but you
But
get more.
Yeah,
of
but
it.
the best part about it, and this is something
Is
that
you
I
get,
wish
like,
that a
6
lot
times.
more like movies and studios would do is like if you're gonna show something in the trailer, don't show the whole thing.
right.
and
just
when you-
get
Yeah.
a clip of it.
Yeah, and when we see that in the trailer, like you could definitely tell
I
yourself
thought
like,
that was
oh,
the whole thing.
yeah, I thought that was the whole thing.
It's definitely.
It's
not.
definitely not. It's like
There's so much of it.
It's
It's great.
so
Yeah.
funny,
There's like
too.
4 other dead people that they
No,
have to
there's
talk
like
to.
10.
And then they leave one.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Even
that-
at the end of the movie, he's like,
that's
guys,
the post credit scene.
somebody please
Ask me another
a
question.
He's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that feels bad, bro.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit was super funny. I love that shit, especially when they're like,
Did you?
it
die?
turns out that like the first 3 dead dudes that they talk to are completely useless, and they're like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
completely
like-
wrong people.
Like, oh, I slipped on the rock and hit my head on the back.
Yeah,
were
he
in
wasn't
the
even
battle,
in the battle.
No, I died. before.
Yeah. That shit was fucking hilarious.
Wait. Aren't you gonna ask him more questions? Fine.
Fine.
What's your favorite color? You know, that's a hard question.
What's your favorite book? Well,
thought
if we're
that
talking
shit was
about Renaissance, yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
any,
Highly
Really good
recommend.
movie.
any other issues that you guys had with the movie? Anything else you guys want to bring up
None of that I really care to like
to
bring up.
put
you know
out
what I
there?
mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're gonna have a good time with this movie no matter
Yeah,
what. You
I
know
will
what I mean?
say,
it's just fun. so.
I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 D&D movies that have been made before this, like a long time ago. This is a certified dub, though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
For D&D, good
yeah,
job.
yeah, good for your guys. Good for the D&D community. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
I'm glad it was really
you
good.
finally get something for yourselves. You know, good.
yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys for joining us on this one. I really hope that you guys took the time to watch this episode because I think it'll really give you guys a more in-depth perspective on this movie, and you might appreciate the movie a little bit more, especially for those those of you that maybe have no exposure to Dungeons and Dragons other than the first season of Stranger Things. You know, and if you are one of those people, don't be afraid to go watch this movie. Like if you haven't seen this movie yet, and you're one of those people that think Dungeons and Dragons is for nerds, don't be afraid to go watch this movie because it's a really fun movie.
You would be right. It is for nerds. For nerds
Yeah,
are
that's
cool
true.
now. So
Yeah. Jokes on you. Yeah. So go check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Give it some support. We got some more content coming out for you guys later this week. If you guys want to check out a video where I talk about my first experience with a 40X movie, check that out. It came out yesterday. So check that video out. Talk a little bit about my experience in that one. So that's a fun one. And thank you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. Connor, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Check out our social media links as well as the other shows here on Any Kind Media. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.
bye, guys.
Bye, guys.